Hello, my name is Ariel Lomax, and this is my project for Info 210, Reference and Information Services. For this project, I decided to make a LibGuide. It is something I have always been interested in, and it was a great learning experience. My undergraduate studies were on East Asian art history, and I planned to become an Asian art history subject expert, so this was the perfect opportunity for me. What is a LibGuide? According to Ruth L. Baker, LibGuides have existed since 2007. LibGuides have evolved from what were known as Pathfinders, the primary format of LibGuides before the digital age. While there are many types of LibGuides, including subject guides, course guides, and research guides, they all generally have the same structure of boxes and columns. The best LibGuides integrate Web 2.0 technology like RSS, instant messaging, and social media integration. Goodset, Miles, and Noelaniak say first to consider the purpose of your guide. Is it to teach, or is it to provide a curated resource list? In this case, the target audience would be users specializing in this field, so this LibGuide acts as a curated resource list. According to Junk, Derringer, and Junk, the goal of a LibGuide is to promote independent learning. I created this LibGuide with the hope of promoting independent learning in the community of Japanese art history in an academic library. While there is saturation of resources on woodblock prints and contemporary art in the Japanese art history community, the resources on ink painting are lacking and overwhelmed with quite out-of-date materials. Even during this project, it was difficult to find more up-to-date resources outside of dissertations and journal articles, although the older resources used are invaluable to the field. For example, two renowned Asian art history authors would be Hugo Munstenberg, so I have to include him, and then also James Cahill, who passed in 2014, is a very important art historian, so I've included some works by them here. Even though they're quite old, they are still valuable. So, in deciding how broad or specific to make my guide, I decided on making a subject-specific guide. Reuben Gibbons, in 2004 research, found that students found guides at a more specific level, for example, a course guide, were more appealing. And many researchers also found that LibGuides with too much information can confuse and frustrate students. In fact, the layout decisions were made based on various findings from field research. In James Hart's 2014 study, he discusses best practices done by successful LibGuides. Users preferred LibGuides without clutter that manage white space well. They also do not like scrolling for long unless going through a reading selection. Another best practice seen a lot through the research explored is laying out the most important information in an F pattern. It is proven that people skim web pages in an F pattern. Therefore, for example, it is better to put menus on the left than on the right. As for top versus side navigation, LibGuides provides the option for tabs along the top. I chose a left-aligned table of contents in line with the findings of research by Goodset, Miles, and Noelaniak on LibGuides best practices. It is also advised to organize resources by priority rather than alphabetical. Most user-friendly LibGuides list the most relevant resources at top. So Grove Art Online, for example, is probably one of the most popular databases for art history research. So although, for example, ArtStore begins with an A, Grove Art Online is at the top. ArtStore is still valuable too, but more so for images and things like that. So Grove Art Online is at the top. Another example under reference resources, Janus, the Japanese architecture and art net, is the most popular, biggest Japanese art history dictionary online. So that has been put at the top above a dictionary of Japanese artists, which is an A, because this is the most valuable to researchers. As for text, there are many choices for emphasis: underlining, capitalizing, italicizing, etc. Hart found the most effective methods were bolding text, sizing, and changing the color. However, Goodset-Miles and Malaniak bring up the issue of accessibility and how changing the color does little for colorblind users. So I decided on bolding for emphasis. In a 2016 study by Jackson and Stacy Bates, the average number of links per guide were 65 in 2002 and 77 in 2013 for the philosophy field. They also studied LibGuides in non-humanities field, so I used this data as a model for my humanities-focused LibGuide. I have about 41 links and 47 resources total. The struggle in getting that amount of resources for me was that many of the resources for this topic are out of print and in publications from the 70s and 80s, or not in English. For this project, I stuck to resources in English and tried not to include too many outdated resources. This was the biggest challenge. Jackson and Stacy Bates also found that in the LibGuides in their study, local links from the institution made up an average of 30 to 40% of the total links. In my guide, I have included both local links and external links. And then under databases and journals, most of the resources can be found at SJSU, or in the case of resources such as online databases, they can be accessed through SJSU. In 2008, Harrington wrote that many arts and humanities LibGuides and Pathfinders list both print and electronic resources. I have included both print and electronic resources. In a world where electronic resources are more in demand, the art history field is unique in that they often demand physical resources for high-quality images with color accuracy. In addition, in humanities fields such as history, primary and secondary print resources are also valuable. For example, there are many excellent private collection catalogs with artwork that cannot be found online. Good LibGuides also include a summary of research support services available at the library. So I included a page for resources specific to art historical research, as well as useful links I found from the SJSU Writing Center that students might not know about. LibGuides can potentially be a great way to promote various services from libraries and writing centers to students. One suggestion from the Build a LibGuide guide for art galleries was to add a gallery box. A gallery box is a must in an art history website. I have included a few paintings from key artists in this gallery, but the collection can be extended. This experience is something that I've wanted for a long time. LibGuides can be a fascinating resource for researchers. Because LibGuides must be user-focused, each one is quite different from the other. In fact, I would recommend looking at various LibGuides. Looking at various subject guides, course guides, and web guides helped me to understand the audience I am focused on more, and it helped to refine a list of what was needed and what was not needed in the LibGuide. For example, graduate LibGuides tend to be more simplified in decor than, say, K through 12 ones. From this project, I have learned the complexities and considerations of creating a subject guide. Adding annotations, considering layout, guaranteeing accessibility. These are all hard work. However, the output is rewarding. I think LibGuides are priceless for everyone, but especially humanities fields like art history. Until recently, there has not been a great enough digital push in these fields. And I think if librarians make user-friendly humanities LibGuides, This would make the transition easier. Once again, I'm Ariel Lomax, and thank you so much for your time.